In this video, I'm going to show you how to complete a lab using NetLab. The first lab you will encounter in this course using NetLab is Lab 2.9.2, which is located in Module 1, Lesson 2. You'll see that after the name, you see it designates Complete in NetLab. So the first thing we're going to do is going to enter the lab and look at the rubric so we can see which screenshots we're going to need once we complete our lab. This is your rubric, which shows what's going to be graded in this lab. The screenshots will be right down here in the bottom right corner. If you cannot see this, you simply go to the zoom button and click on the plus sign. Then, so you can remember which screenshot you'll need, I use the snipping tool. So I bring up my snipping tool in Windows, I click New, and I simply draw a box around what screenshots I'll need. Now, if you only have one screen, you can simply minimize this and bring it back up when you need to look at it. I've got two screens, so I'm going to move it over to the other screen out of my way and close my rubric. Now I'm ready to download my lab worksheet. Once I have my lab worksheet open, I'm ready to start NetLab. I'm simply going to start a new tab and type in the address for NetLab, which is netlab.tstc.edu. Which brings you to the main screen of NetLab. Your username is going to be your TSTC email address. My address is a little different because I'm a teacher. Your initial password to get into NetLab is going to be 123456789. I've already set my password, so I'm going to put it in. Once you get into NetLab, it will prompt you to change your password as well. And I see that I have a previous reservation here. To start a new reservation, all you have to do is go to this blue button that says New Lab Reservation and click on it. And choose Schedule Lab for Myself. As you see, I have quite a few classes listed. You should have only one, your class. Click on your class, and it will bring you back with all the labs that are available to complete in NetLab. In this case, we're going to do Lab 2.9.2. So we need to go over here under the Actions section and click on the arrow. There are three options to choose from. One is Schedule Lab, which we'll get to in a moment. The next one is Preview Lab. When we click on it, it brings up a copy of the lab worksheet that we already have open. So we'll simply dismiss that. Then there's the Show Lab Topology option. If we click on that, it brings us up a picture of our topology that we'll be working with. And we can dismiss that. Then finally, we get to the option that we want, Schedule Lab. When you click on it, it brings you up to the calendar in NetLab. It shows you the current time and the current date and the pods. It shows you 4 pods at a time. If you scroll over with the right arrow, you'll see that there are up to 16 pods available. I'm going to choose the first available pod. What I want to do is go right below the red line with my pointer and click. And it brings up my reservation. It states the current time, which is 3:38, and it tells me the end time is 4:30. They're giving me 41 minutes to complete this lab. If that's not enough time, all you have to do is click on this calendar over on the right side and change the end time. Also, if you stay with the default time that they give you, 15 minutes from the end of your reservation, a box will pop up and ask you if you want to extend your time, and you click on it and it gives you more time. So don't worry if you don't set it from the beginning. I'm going to click submit, and I've scheduled my reservation. Now all I have to do is go into my lab and complete it. Once I click enter lab, it starts initializing the devices I'm going to be using, which are 2 switches and 2 PCs. Note, the 2 switches are going to take a while to boot up. The PCs boot up pretty fast, but the switches and routers in these labs can take up to 5 minutes to boot up, so be aware. You'll see that you have several buttons up here at the top. The first one is highlighted because it's showing us our topology for this lab. But that's our topology. The content shows you a copy of the worksheet. The status, if you click on it, shows you the status of the devices you're using. You see that the 2 switches are still booting up and the PCs are ready to go. And then you have your 4 devices, your 2 switches and your 2 PCs. On switches and routers, you have various options. On the switches, you can copy selected text or you can save configuration. I usually use the save configuration option when I want to save a show run. On the PCs, you have various options as well. The one that I use the most is the take screenshot option. So if I'm doing an IP config or a ping, I can take a screenshot of that and it saves it in NetLab for me. So let's do that and I'll show you how it works. First I have to set up my PCs with an IP address. So I'm going to go down here to this globe by the time and I'm going to click on it till it pops up the box that says Network and Internet Settings, and click on that. Then in that window that opens up, I'm going to choose Change Adapter Options. Then it shows us our 2 adapters that we're to work with. Never choose the default switch adapter. Always use the Ethernet adapter. So I right click on that adapter and choose Properties. In this case, I'm going to set up an IPv4 address for my PC. But if I needed to set up an IPv6 address, I simply scroll down until I see the IPv6 option. So now that I have my IPv4 option chosen, I simply click the Properties button. Then I choose the second option so I can manually enter the IP address, and I enter the IP address I want to enter. Once I click on this middle box, it gives me the default subnet mask for the class of address I entered in the top box, which was a Class C address. This is our subnet mask that I want, so I'm going to leave it like that. In this particular exercise, I don't have a router, so I won't be filling in a default gateway. I simply click OK to accept that. Then I click Close to close that box, and then X to close the window, and X to close that window. Now that PC is done. Now I need to go to PCB and do the same thing. click on the globe, choose Network and Internet Settings, change adapter options, right-click on the Ethernet adapter, choose Properties, choose the IPv4 option since I'm going to be entering an IPv4 address. Click Properties, choose the second option to put in a static address, and then put in your address. Click on the middle box, and it puts in the default subnet mask for whatever class of address you entered in the top box. Since this is correct, I will not manipulate it. And I don't need a default gateway because in this exercise, I don't have a router. So I click OK, I click Close, I close this window, I close this window, and everything is set. Now I'm going to show you how to save a configuration and take a screenshot. Say that I've already configured my switches and I simply need to do a screenshot of the show run command. All I have to do is go to this drop arrow and choose Save Configuration. I don't need to go into the switch and do the show run command. I simply go to the switch and choose Save Configuration. And it presents me with these options: save to your work history, save to your files, save to both. I'm going to save to both just for redundancy. I'm going to click Yes, and it asks me which folder to save to. There's my files. Everyone has an account folder, but you also have a class folder. I have quite a few because I have 4 classes. You should only have 1. I'm just going to choose a class. Then I'm going to click Save Here, and I'm going to choose what to save my show run as. I'm going to call it and click Create. And you see how it's saving the configuration to the file. I do switch to the same way. I click on the arrow, I choose Save Configuration. It asks me where I want it to be saved. I choose Save to Both. Click Yes. I choose the class I want to save it to. Click Save Here. Then name it what I want to name it. Okay, this says a file with that name already exists. That's because I typed S1 instead of S2. Then I click Create. And it does it. Now, what if I want to do some screenshots of my PCs? I simply go to the PC and say I want to do an IP config. I go down here to the bottom to the taskbar where my command prompt button is, and I click on it. Then I simply type in the command. I want to do an IP config /all. Then I maximize my screen and I scroll back up to the top. Don't worry if you don't get all this down at the bottom, because this is that adapter called default switch, and I don't want that info. So I have the info that I need in the screen, and now all I need to do is click on the arrow and say Take Screenshot. And in the notes I'm going to put the lab and what it is. And it took the screenshot. What if I wanted to do a ping? I do the same thing. Sometimes you could get 2 screenshots in one if there's enough room. If you do a bunch of pings, you can do some and do them all in one screenshot. So I just simply do this, go up here, take screenshot, and submit. That's how easy it is to save a configuration of a network device like a switch or a router and taking screenshots of the PCs and the various commands that you do in the PCs. I hope that helps.